Wonderful Kirtan. Thank you, Krishna Chaitanya, for Mridanga. We are moving on to the next part of our program, special Sunday Feast lecture. Today, going to give by. We are very blessed and very fortunate today to have His Holiness Rompada Swami Maharaj with us. On behalf of Hare Krishna Temple of Fasting, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Maharaj for giving us his holy association. Here is very brief introduction of Maharaj. His Holiness Rompada Swami Maharaj is a Vaishnava monk for over 50 years, a renowned scholar on Eastern Vedic thought and philosophy, and highly respected spiritual leader, guide, and caregiver. He is well known, respected, and followed for his selfless sacrifice and impressive effort to build, sustain, and grow spiritual community in America, Asia, and other places around the world. With that, let us welcome His Holiness Rompada Swami Maharaj to Hare Krishna Temple of Austin by loudly chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra one time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Over to you, Maharaj.
You got to turn around so you can see it. Oh. No. You've had nice kirtan, so that's sufficient. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatadine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You're going to change. Yeah. Go ahead, go right ahead. Thanks. The topic for today, it was planned to be an introductory little presentation on Bhagavad Gita. But it looks like the people that are here are been around for a while. Right? Yes? Are you new or you've been around for a while? You're new. Okay, this is for you. Customized for you. Bhagavad Gita. A few things about what the book is. Bhagavad Gita is a portion, literally the very middle part of a very large epic, or a history of greater India. Maha means great, and Bharata means in relation to the land of Bharatvarsh, or India, the history of greater India. Mahabharata. The topic of Mahabharata is the kings that ruled during an ancient period of time. The book was written over 5,000 years ago, and it's still well read today, which means there's a lot of value in it. Besides the history of kings, it's a treatise. One way to describe it's a treatise on ethical conduct. What is to be done, what is not to be done, in terms of codes given by God. What is to be done, what is not to be done. Proper conduct, improper conduct, theistic conduct, atheistic conduct, moral conduct, immoral conduct. So it's a compare and contrast exemplified by the good guys and the bad guys. It's a good story, good guys and the bad guys. The evil villain and the hero. And as it turns out, they're cousin brothers. And many things happen, lots of intrigue, skullduggery, bad things. But the good guys, the Pandavas, the sons of Pandu, they abide by virtue at every step. They exemplify what is to be done by those who live a virtuous life. And a conflict arises where the bad guys have attempted murder multiple times and try to disrobe their wife in a public assembly and, abominable things, punishable things. So it's increasing, and it gets to the point where it looks like there's going to be a big battle between the two cousin brothers. Krishna, at their request, goes to make a peaceful settlement. The peaceful settlement is rejected in a very crass way. And so there's going to be a war. And the painting shows Krishna became the chariot driver of Arjuna. Krishna said, I'm also a cousin, and I'm not going to take sides. So I shall not fight. But if somebody wants me, I can be with them, but not fight. And my armies can go to the other party. It had massive armies. So the bad guys said, I'll take the armies, please. And Arjuna said, I'll take Krishna, please. So Krishna became the chariot driver. He didn't fight. So Arjuna knew that Krishna was the Supreme Person. But in addition to being the Supreme Person, they were cousins, not only cousins, they were very dear friends. Very dear, intimate friends. So Arjuna requested Krishna to, as you see in the painting, draw his chariot between the two armies. On one side and the other side is this vast array of military, to see who's on which side. That's chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita. And the description of on this side and on that side. And then Arjuna says, I don't want to do this. And here's my reasons why I don't want to do this. And so they're having discussion back and forth. And in the beginning of part of chapter 2, Arjuna says, I really don't know what's best. Please instruct me. So the mood shifts, and Krishna stops just being friend, and he takes the role of guru, and he instructs his student. And that's what Bhagavad Gita is. It's Krishna's instructions about the duty of a human being. And the duty of the human being can be understood one way to describe what's in the content of Bhagavad Gita. It's the yoga systems, plural, that are compared to a yoga ladder, and Krishna describes this rung, and then that rung, and then the next rung, and then the topmost rung, and elaborately discusses the topmost rung, and then starts going back down again. If you can't do that, you can do this. If you can't do this, you can do the next thing. He's describing the yoga system and the topmost within the yoga system. That's Bhagavad Gita. In the context of what is ethical, what is moral, what is proper conduct, according to those who abide by the culture given within the Vedic literatures. That's the Mahabharata. So this is the transcendental, or the essence of the teachings part. It's literally right in the middle of the entire big epic. there's many things that happen before, there's many things that happen after, and the essence is what's in Bhagavad Gita. So at the top, goal of life and Bhagavad Gita and daily life. So that's going to come at the end. I'd like to describe a little bit more about the makeup of Bhagavad Gita. You see in the painting at the bottom, there's a king seated on a royal throne, and he's blind. He's the elder brother that couldn't accept the rule of the kingdom because he was blind. And the person who he's talking to, dressed in blue, is Sanjaya. Sanjaya is something of a mystic. He is a disciple of Vyasadeva, who's the compiler of all the Vedas. Vyasadeva instructed him to assist this blind king Dhritarashtra. So what Sanjaya is doing here is he's narrating what's going on the battlefield to the blind king Dhritarashtra, who can't see, so therefore he can't take part in the battle, but he's very, very, very interested in the outcome of the battle. So it's a dialogue between Sanjaya on our right in that painting, dressed in blue, and the king Dhritarashtra seated on the throne. And you can see from his body language, he's really anxious to find out what's going on. And Sanjaya is describing what's going on. There's Krishna, the chariot driver. There's Arjuna, a very heroic bowman. And this looks like the battle is already happening, but before the battle happens, Arjuna gives his reasons in chapter 1 why he doesn't want to be engaged in the battle. After giving his reasons, he drops his bow and says, he just declares, I shall not fight. And Krishna says a number of things. And after Krishna says a number of things, Arjuna says, please instruct me, I'm bewildered. And Krishna instructs him. So this is a nice painting of there the two are, sitting in the chariot in the midst of the battlefield before the battle begins and having their discussion. Bhagavad Gita. Gita in English, it means song. And Bhagavad is a word that by Sanskrit rule, Bhagavan, which is the name of the Supreme Person, becomes Bhagavat, Bhagavad Gita, the song of Bhagavan. Here's a little paragraph composed just to explain what's in it. The Bhagavad Gita is universally renowned as the jewel of India's spiritual wisdom. Spoken by Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to his intimate disciple Arjuna, the Gita's 700 concise verses provide a definitive guide to the science of self-realization. No other philosophical or religious work reveals in such a lucid and profound way the nature of consciousness, the self, the universe, and the Supreme. So since Bhagavad Gita has been around for a long time, there are many spiritual personalities and scholars and so forth that have written commentary explaining Bhagavad Gita. And when Srila Prabhupada made his Bhagavad Gita as it is presentation, he relied on these two great acharyas in our line. Pictured on our left is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And the dates of both of these persons, there are different scholars that say different things, no surprise. But this is one of those scholars' statements of the years that he lived. Gives you some ideas, like the Middle Ages. And overlapping, their lives overlapped for some period of time. They both lived in Vrindavan, and a student of Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, pictured on the left, was Baladev Vijayabhusan. Prabhupada writes in the dedication page that he dedicates this Bhagavad Gita as it is to Baladev Vijayabhusan. And one of the reasons is, as classic writers will sometimes do, Baladev followed the classic system of describing the entire subject matter of Bhagavad Gita as falling into 5 subject matters. And if you read the introduction written by Prabhupada, you'll find Baladev's name, you'll find the 5 principal teachings. The idea is if you can understand these 5 properly, you can understand Bhagavad Gita properly. So here's the 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita. The first one is God, or in Sanskrit, Ishvara. The living entity, or Jiva. Material nature, Prakriti. Time, or Kala. And fruitive activity, or Karma. Baladev teaches, and Prabhupada expands his teaching by saying, of these 5, 4 are eternal, and 1 is non-eternal. Which one is non-eternal? There's a girl that's right in front. Which one is non-eternal? Material nature is sometimes manifest and sometimes not manifest. It's withdrawn. But the material nature is eternal, as co-eternal with Krishna. So that leaves 4 others. What's another one that's not eternal? Karma. Yeah. Karma comes and karma goes. And the fruits of karma come and the fruits of karma go. And the other 4 are eternal. Some, again, material nature sometimes manifest, sometimes not manifest. And a mysterious one at the bottom is time. So we'll discuss that last. Here's a nice painting painted by our ISKCON artists to describe material nature. In the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, this painting is illustrating the 8 divisions of Prakriti, or material nature. You know what they are? Starting with earth, water, fire, air, ether. Mind, intelligence, and false ego. So the gross body is made up of the first 5. So the painting is showing there's earth, there's water, there's fire, and there's air, that's his arms, and all around that's the sky. So that makes 5. And then in addition to the 5, there's the head portion. That's mind, intelligence, and false ego. Now, how are you going to depict mind, intelligence, and false ego in a painting? But that's what the painting is illustrating. Those 8 energies are Krishna's Prakriti, or material nature, his material energies. And then you notice inside the fire portion in the middle, there's a spark. That spark is in the other category of what's eternal. The soul. And next to the soul is the Supreme Soul, or Paramatma. So Atma and Paramatma. Atma is the soul. And so these 8 plus the Atma make for activities in this material world. Now, so this is depicting, notice is depicting Prakriti, material nature. It's also depicting the Jiva, is another one of the 5 topics, the living entity, and the Supreme, or Ishvara, that's that form of Paramatma within. So there's 3 of the 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita in one painting. So let's speak a little bit about that little spark, the spirit soul. Spark indicating like there's a big fire, and from a big fire comes many sparks, and the living entity is like the spark unto the big fire from which the spark comes. So that big fire, that's Krishna, and the little spark, that's the living entity, or us. So that the symptoms of the part are like, qualitatively like the symptoms of the whole. If you take a spark, its main qualities are heat and light, and the fire's main qualities are heat and light. Or like a drop of seawater. In the drop of seawater is qualitatively what's in the whole ocean. Quantitatively very tiny, but qualitatively the same. So like the drop of ocean water to the reservoir, or the spark unto the big fire from which the spark has come. Similarly, the living entity has qualitative oneness with the Supreme, but very tiny. Qualitative oneness, quantitative difference. So simultaneously one and different from the source. And something that we need to know about that in this, both the source and the spark, is consciousness. So consciousness is not one of the five. It's a symptom of the presence of the soul. Some years ago, hearing Prabhupada's lectures, I heard him say on a number of occasions, the soul is both conscious and consciousness, which sounded like really cool, but I didn't know what it meant. But it caught my attention. I heard him say it several times, so I started meditating on what is the meaning. And it's after some time, I came across an explanation from the Upanishads, where it explains consciousness as being like light from a lamp. So the lamp is luminous, and the lamp lights up objects in the room because the light radiates out. And it illuminates the language in the Upanishads, and it illuminates the pots and plates, like things. So, for example, we're sitting in this room, and there's curtains covering these windows, and there's no curtains covering those windows. There's more light coming through those windows than where the curtains are. But there's some, because it's not night, you can see there's some light behind the curtains. Consciousness is extending out. And by consciousness extending out, I can see things that are outside of me, but also there's the conscious entity that's the perceiving. So consciousness is what extends out. You can hear some sounds, you can smell some smells, you can have the sense of touch through the medium of consciousness, and consciousness extends through the knowledge-acquiring senses. The consciousness extends because the soul is present and the soul is conscious. So there's conscious, that's the soul, and consciousness is also the soul. Consciousness is not the body. Although we may experience consciousness through the senses or the body. Like a very nice example, really easy one, is out-of-body experiences. I meant to have this slide here, I don't have it. Anyone here not know what out-of-body experience is and would like to know what it is? Okay, you don't know. Out-of-body experience means when consciousness goes outside the body and you can experience the body from outside the body. A common example, there's more than this category, but a common example is when patients who are having heart operation have cardiac arrest. Cardiac arrest means the heart stops. Cardiac arrest, the heart stops. And when the heart stops, blood stops flowing through the body, including to the brain. Now, modern science often says consciousness takes place in the brain. And it's just a material event of nerves, blood, and other receivers of information, and the information goes to the brain, and it perceives something. I hear a sound, or I see a sight, or something. It's just a mechanical process within the brain. That's some people's idea, many people's idea. However, sometimes, and there's a lot of reports of this happening, sometimes during heart operation, so a heart surgeon sees, according to the meters that are hooked up to the body, that the patient has cardiac arrest. So the heart stops. When the heart stops, blood doesn't go to the brain, and the person needs to be rescued immediately by artificial means to make the heart start beating again, or they're dead. And for that period of time, they're as if dead because the heart stopped beating. And that means the brain stopped getting blood, which means that the electrochemical events in the brain have also shut down because the brain's not getting any blood. So they have a system. I don't know, I'm not a heart surgeon, but the system goes something like this. They have electrodes or some kind of device they place on the chest of the patient, the heart patient, and through that electronic charge, it simulates as if the heart is pumping, but although the heart stopped. So the body reads the heart is pumping, and it's artificially induced, and after some time the heart may start pumping again. If the heart doesn't start pumping again, it's finished. So one Dr. Sabam from Emory University in Atlanta, who is both a professor and a heart surgeon, was performing heart surgery on one patient. And during that heart surgery, his heart stopped beating, because you could see on whatever the meters are that his heart stopped. So then there's some immediate emergency procedure. And the procedure was followed. The electrodes are placed in the chest. The doctor said this, the assistant did that. The person's life was saved. And then he completed the heart surgery and he lived. They don't always live. Next couple of days, the doctor went to see his patient and said, "How's it going? How are you feeling?" And he said how he was feeling, but he also said he had a very interesting experience during the heart surgery. And the doctor said, "What was that?" And he described everything that happened during cardiac arrest. And the doctor was like, "What? How do you know all this?" He said, "I was watching from up above the operating table." What? And he described his positioning himself above the body, observing the body, observing this doctor, remembering what this doctor said to the assistant, said to the nurse, and it was if like it was recorded in a playback device. So the doctor was, how is this possible? It doesn't fit. Medical science says, and this doesn't fit medical science, because, in short, consciousness doesn't take place in the body. Consciousness may register in the body or not. And out-of-body experiences is where it's not registering in the body. So what's the seat of consciousness? Not the body. It's not the brain part of the body. It's something else. So the doctor was thinking, there's got to be an explanation. So he started researching, and he consulted other surgeons who had, surprisingly similar experience with their patients. And he started gathering data and gathering data and gathering data, and he ended up writing a book on out-of-body experiences. And his conclusion was, he wasn't an atheist, but his conclusion was, I can't reach any other reasonable conclusion except what I'd said already. The seat of consciousness is not the body. There was memory, visual acuity, auditory acuity, everything of consciousness, but the body was shut down. The brain was shut down, at least during that cardiac arrest period. So consciousness is different than the body. Consciousness is awareness extending out, like this lamp, where the lamp is luminous, but the light of the lamp is extending throughout the room. So consciousness is from the soul, and the soul is conscious and consciousness. That's a symptom of the soul. And when the soul departs, then the body is finished. It decomposes. But that which animates, instead of allowing the body to decompose, is the presence of the soul, and that means consciousness. And this consciousness is present, according to the Vedas, in the region of the heart. And along with the individual soul, which is situated in the region of the heart, there's side by side with the soul, Paramatma. Atma means soul, and Param means supreme. Paramatma, the soul, according to the Bhagavad Gita, within each of us, not just us, any bug, tree, bird, fish, animal, anything alive, even a microbial germ, inside there's a spark of life, there's a soul, and side by side with the soul is the Supreme Soul within. And that's who we are. That's an essential one of 5 main teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So there's the body, that's the covering of the soul. So that out-of-body experience, I wish I had the paint, it's a nice painting. It shows this kind of spooky entity hovering above an operating table. So what that spooky entity is, it's the subtle body. What's a subtle body? Subtle body is mind, intelligence, and false ego. So I mentioned it, that other painting that shows this guy running through the sky. There's the 5 gross material elements, and there's the 3 subtle material elements. The 3 subtle material elements, that's a subtle body. Mind, intelligence, and false ego. So the mind, intelligence, and false ego carry the soul up above the gross body, looking down upon the gross body, and with acuity could hear and see everything, because that's the seat of consciousness. That's the seat of consciousness. The obstacle for realizing who we are is we have a strong identification with matter, the covering, both the gross and the subtle coverings. And the lesson of Bhagavad Gita is to break that false identification, that's the false ego part, falsely identifying with the covering or with matter, and instead identifying with who we are. So I like graphics. So here's a graphic I like. This is an eggshell with some light coming from the inside of the eggshell. Never seen an egg quite like this, but the light coming from within the eggshell, that's the soul. And that's the conscious part. And then the consciousness is extending out through those cracks. And that's what we're like, the covering, like the eggshell. And consciousness is, to some degree at least, extending beyond the body through the senses: sight, smell, taste, sound, touch. Something is going out there through consciousness. And the idea of Bhagavad Gita is this: not only consciousness extends through the body, but we can identify the soul itself as separate from the body. We can still use the body. We should. We do use the body, but not identify with it. Which is a big difference between material consciousness and spiritual consciousness. Here's some other statements from Bhagavad Gita about the soul. The soul can be experienced or perceived by the presence of consciousness. Converse is also there. When the soul is gone, we experience consciousness is gone. That's death. Many spiritual traditions of the world accept consciousness as being a symptom of the soul, same as we already spoke. At the time of death, all physical and chemical components of the body remain, but something non-physical has been lost. So it's non-physical. Although it doesn't have qualities like physical, because it's not physical. It has qualities that are spiritual because it's spiritual. Even through our language, we identify ourselves as being different from the body. I'm going to ask you some questions and see if you can answer the questions. You ready? Can you point to your head? Can you point to your head? Okay. Point to your arm. Point to your foot. Your foot, not your ear. Point to your foot. There it is. Okay, now you can point to your ear. Now, it's my head, my foot, my arm, my ear. Now can you point to me? No, to yourself. So does that mean the body is you? You follow? If you went like this, does that mean the body is you? No? Then how do you point to you? So by our language, the message here is, we say my hand, my body, my foot, my ear, my head. There's the object, like my shoe. I left my shoes out there. The shoe is not me. You know, my dhoti. You know, my hair. I don't have much, but there's the object and there's the owner of the object. So by our language, we say my, and then the object. So by our language, the possessor, the seat of consciousness, is different than the covering. Got it? We say it all the time, but we still think in terms of, I'm the body. Like, I'm old and you're young. I'm a man and you're a woman. And then somebody's American and somebody's Indian, somebody's black, somebody's white, somebody's Christian, somebody's Hindu, somebody's Muslim, somebody's Buddhist. Those are all coverings. Not who we are. It's a covering. So one of the essential teachings of Bhagavad Gita is we're not the covering. Or the subdivisions of coverings. It's not who we are. If that's not who we are, then who are we? Oh, here's the out-of-body experience photo. Okay, painting. I may have to change it, the position of it. So here's another, I'll add to this. After I read this book by Dr. Sabam, I started getting a little interested in, is there more literature on out-of-body experiences? There's a lot. But I just read only one other book, and I did like so many. The one other book that I read, just sharing, The one other book I read was also written by a heart surgeon from the University of Washington in Seattle, a lady. And she wrote the first experience she had of a patient describing during heart surgery, she was also a heart surgeon, they had cardiac arrest and they survived. Similar thing. A couple days later, she went to their hospital bed, said, "How's it going?" And they described their experience. But their experience was a little different than this one. They rose above the operating table. They floated across the ceiling of the operation room. They went out the window, the ventilation window, and went up 2 flights of stairs and found themselves looking inside a janitor's closet from outside the building, in the janitor's closet. She was like, "What?" You know, she didn't respond like that to the patient, but so she went to the janitor and said, "This is what someone described to me what they saw inside your janitor's closet. Can you confirm?" He said, "Well, no one could possibly see because I keep the door locked." And she described what was in the janitor's closet. He said, "Yeah, that's what's in the janitor's closet." And then the patient, also described a pair of sneakers. They were on a ledge overhanging the window of the janitor's closet that you can't see from inside. It can only be seen from outside, and that's what the patient saw, the pair of sneakers hanging on the little ledge. She was like, "What?" So she went to upper floors and looked down, and there's the pair of sneakers. What's going on? What's going on? So she did a similar thing that Dr. Michael Sabam did. She started interviewing other physicians and found that, from time to time, out-of-body experiences happen. And so she also wrote a book on what she learned from her patient and other patients and so forth. So, Hrishta, you did some research on this some time ago. Provide that to whom? Satyasar, and he can circulate it. So it's abundant. All of this is to say one thing: the seat of consciousness is not the body. If the seat of consciousness is not the body, what is it? It's the soul. And the soul exists apart from the body. There's a subtle body, and the subtle body was carrying the soul, and there's the gross body lying on the operating table. And they're different. So that's what happens at the time of death. At the time of death, the body is finished, it's no longer habitable, it's useless. So the subtle body, which is made up of mind, intelligence, and false ego, the subtle body carries the soul, which means consciousness, to the next womb of the next mother, or whatever the next form of life is. If it's not a womb, whatever the next form of life is. The soul and subtle body depart. The subtle body carries the soul. Depending upon what the mind is absorbed in, that's where the soul goes. And it's happening presently. The body is going where the mind goes. And the mind goes where our conditioning goes. So the choices that we make have a lot to determine what our destination is in this life and after this life. Here's another little illustration of the same point. In Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, there's a nice description of the journey of the soul. Dehinosmin yata dehe komaram yovanam jara. Many of you know the verse. So this is an exhibit, a sculpture in Los Angeles. There's also one in Detroit, but I don't know if it's functioning like it's functioning in Los Angeles. Someday you may visit Los Angeles. And if you visit Los Angeles, do yourself a favor, visit the LA Temple. And when you visit the LA Temple, there's 3 places to visit. there's the deities, it's over on the right side. There's the Govinda's restaurant on the left side. And in the middle, there's this. It's not just this, there's several exhibits. It's called the FATE, F-A-T-E, First American Theistic Exhibition, created by some artists under Prabhupada's direction to do, and he told them what to do. And there's pastimes of Krishna, there's different things that they illustrate through these dioramas. So when you go to this place, to the FATE exhibit, it's digitally, it's kind of, it's not like super high technology, but when it was done during Prabhupada's time, it was pretty good technology. You go from one exhibit to the next, and there's a narrator's voice that tells you what's in the exhibit. When you go to this one, you feel like you're in India because the lights go out. And you're standing in front of this, you don't know what it is because the lights went out. And then there's a light that's from behind that shines on a mylar mirror. Mylar mirror means it reflects light, but if there's light from the other side, then you can see it like a window. So the lights go out. You're standing there looking at darkness. Then this light comes on from behind you, and you see everybody standing there looking at yourselves in the mylar mirror. And this deep, resonating British voice narrator says, and with some nice soft music in the background, "Take a good look at yourself. Who are you, really?" Music. "Are you that body?" More music. And then some other music. And then the mylar mirror light goes down, and the mirror, behind this mylar mirror, goes on to that little infant that's the embryo, and the light comes on inside the embryo, and you hear the sound of a heartbeat. Dun, 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 dun. So then the journey of the soul is described. And that light goes out, the spotlight goes out, the light on his chest goes out, and then the spotlight goes to the little baby. And little baby makes the little baby sound. You know, I can't do that so well. Crying of the little baby. And so, the narrator is describing the journey of the soul. That light goes out, and then comes a little boy, and you hear him bouncing a ball, and the little boy's voice is playing ball in a yard, and that sound, and that light goes out, then the next one. And when it gets all the way to or there's a guy holding a money bag, and you hear him bouncing the money bag. That's the part of his life. He's getting rich, working hard to earn some money. Towards the end, you hear the old man coughing. And then he expires. And then the soul goes back to the little baby body again, or infant, the child in the womb body. So in this way, the exhibit is very graphic. It's powerful. It's very effective, especially with new people that don't know Bhagavad Gita. It's a really good introduction to transmigration of the soul. Commonly, it's called reincarnation. More accurately, it's transmigration of the soul. And the idea is the soul is who we really are. Who are you really? Take a good look at yourself. Are you that body? So there are different ways of communicating Bhagavad Gita's message. So there's the soul and the material nature. There's a little bit more about material nature. As described in Bhagavad Gita, material nature is controlled by those three ladies, or the depiction of the modes of nature. Goodness in yellow, passion in red, and ignorance in some dark color. Goodness, passion, and ignorance control material nature, and down below are the people who think that they're doing something. One guy is a worker, the other guy is a controller of the worker. the capitalist and the laborer, and the strife between the two that goes on for a long time. So beyond those three modes of material nature is the controller of material nature, and that controller is Ishvara. That's one of the 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita. So far, we've discussed 4. Living entity, material nature, Ishvara, and karma. Now what's left? Time. Kala is time. So kala, or time, we find information in Bhagavad Gita, less information in Bhagavad Gita than the other 4 topics, but it's not less important. Kala is described as a Shakti, Kala Shakti, an energy of Krishna. And it's the most powerful force in the material world. And what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, time I am the destroyer of all things. So time brings things into being, and time destroys all things. It's the cause of the change or transformation of Prakriti. I mean, there's other factors, but things don't change without time. Like, here we are seated in the temple room. And there was a time when we were somewhere else. And after a while, we're going to be somewhere else. But we can't come here or go somewhere else without time. Time is needed for change. And according to the teaching of Bhagavad Gita, time moves in cycles. Time is cyclical. And there's small cycles, and there's medium cycles, and there's really, really big cycles. And there's annihilation and resting, and then again creation, and then maintenance for some time, and annihilation, and it just keeps turning. As it day and night, or time keeps moving in cycles. The seasons keep changing, and so forth. The ages of mankind keep changing. There's the different sizes of those cycles, but time, small, medium, large, it keeps moving in cycles. Therefore it's Kala Chakra. You remember what the meaning of chakra is? You gave that meaning the other day. Chakra means wheel. It moves like a wheel of time. And it crushes anything that gets in the way. It brings about 6 transformations. Anything that comes into being with the force of time, it has 6. That one of them is birth, and then growth, and then maintaining for some time by material arrangements, by Prakriti's arrangements. It produces byproducts like offspring or other insects or other trees or other birds or other humans or others, byproducts. Dwindling, and then finished. Death. Time moves. Everything that comes into being experiences death, and the other 4 stages in between. Here's the place in Bhagavad Gita where time is described, the great destroyer of the worlds. It brings things into being, it maintains things for some time, and it removes them after some time. You asked the other day about something to do with Brahma and creation. Yeah, I remember the question, remember my response. But supposing you're Mahavishnu that wants to create, and you know that after some time that which creates is going to be withdrawn. So what's the system from withdrawing? Very simple. As I mentioned, you pull the plug. And the plug, the energizer, is time. So as I mentioned, Rama Devi within Mahavishnu, she entrusts the living entities within the body of Mahavishnu to his glance and time energy. So when it's time to end, she just pulls the plug. Time energy is withdrawn, And the whole thing goes from the manifest, step by step, step by step, step by step, to the subtle unmanifest stage. There's many steps, but that's what happens. It reminds me of, I don't know how much it happens down here in Texas, but in other parts of the country, around Christmas time, lots of people set up things in their front yard. You know, the Santa Claus and different things. At night, they pump it up. There's a guy, you know, smiling and waving. And in the morning, they unplug it. He's just this pile of something in the front yard. Then at night, so it's just pull the plug. Without the time energy, the cosmic manifestation is withdrawn. Really simple, principle-wise, it's very simple. So time, the idea is time is needed to make things happen and to maintain things and to withdraw things. So it's a very important feature. That we had this question the other day, I think maybe it was even last night. Is time personified? Was that last night? Yes? You think one of the questions? So it's how do you draw time? The answer I gave was yes. Everything, behind everything, just the source of everything is a person, and so everything is also, everything that emanates from a person is a person. We may not be able to detect the Supreme Person through our material senses, or the personification of so many things we may not be able to detect, but it's not fairy tale. Everything is personified. Everything. So here's some artist's attempt to depict time. Looks like Abraham Lincoln sitting on the Lincoln Memorial and sitting on a big seat. Down there is the Empire State Building, and you know, time is ruling everything. Or here's another artist conception of time. Time destroys all things. And that's a Vedic picture of time. Here's the worldly picture of time. You've seen images like this before. Black cloak, big hood over his head, big, whatever that instrument is called, looks like something you use for harvesting grain or something, but he uses it for chopping people. And that's the Kala Rupa. This phrase is drawn directly from the Bhagavatam, and there's a form of time. Now, if you don't know what the form of time looks like, you may come up with another image that looks like this. But what's Kala Rupa? Anyways, so I'm going to do something I did last night. I'm going to do it again, but a little bit differently this time. Time, or Kala, moves as a wheel, and that's Kala Chakra. You remember from last night? There's the Kala Chakra pictured in an instrument called an astrolabe. I did a little further research on astrolabe. I still don't understand it so well. But the time moves by the sun. There's a chapter, this is Bhagavad Gita, there's a chapter in the Srimad Bhagavatam, I'm speaking slowly because it's a little delicate. The smallest unit of time, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, from the Vedic perspective, is the time it takes for the sun to cross one atom. And then a certain number of atoms makes another unit of time, and a certain more atoms makes another unit of time, and you get time as we know it. Because who's going to measure the time it takes for the sun to cross one atom? But when you get to the bigger picture of time, there's Kala Chakra, the movements of the sun within creation creates day and night. That's one cycle. And one's the different seasons, that's another cycle. Or as we just discussed yesterday, Makara Sankranti is the sun passing into the constellation of Capricorn. In the English is Capricorn, the Sanskrit is Makara. So Makara Sankranti means the sun moving from the previous constellation into the constellation of Capricorn, or Makara. And this instrument, astrolabe, is to measure all those things. And I don't really understand how it works, but I understand a little bit better this morning from yesterday. Here's a detailed identification of what the various parts are. And this is it was a very popular instrument in Middle Ages. Jai Singh, any of you know who's Jai Singh? Jai Singh is the king of Jaipur. He humbly named the city after himself. Was really into astronomy, and so he wasn't so happy with the small devices like the one that you see you can hold in the palm of your hand. So he built a gigantic one. The gigantic one, the base of the astrolabe was 247 feet. It was like a piece for measuring time within fractions of a second. And then based on the factors of, as you see on the left side, that's the 12 different signs of the zodiac. It doesn't have the names, it just has the logo or the insignia for each of those 12 signs of the zodiac or constellations of stars in the main zodiac. And there's names for each of these things. So I'm going to show you, because this is from Sadaputa's writing, because when Sadaputa was a disciple of Srila Prabhupada who had a PhD in mathematics from Cornell University. And Prabhupada asked him to study the fifth canto and make a design for the planetarium, the Vedic planetarium. Prabhupada wanted it very much. And he recognized Sadaputa's genius, and he wanted him to sort through fifth canto Bhagavatam and Vishnu Purana and other texts, Siddhanta Shiromani and other texts, to make a design for the Vedic planetarium. Small task, huh? And in the course of his research, this is one of the things he wrote about several places. So what I'm going to show you in a moment is taken from his writings, describing an astrolabe. And on an astrolabe, there's an off-centered circle. The off-centered circle, as you see, there's the off-centered circle towards the top. And the off-centered circle represents the orbit of the sun, because the sun doesn't move exactly in a circular motion, it moves in an ecliptic motion. So as the movement of the sun is depicted on this device, there's a piece that represents, and then there's other moving parts. The earth itself is represented as the mater. Let's go back, see where the mater is. That's that piece that's at the back, mater. What's a stereographic projection? So here's a globe. Supposing you wanted to project or depict the globe in 2 dimensions. That's a stereographic projection of the earth. And that's part of the Vedic picture, or it's part of the item of an astrolabe, according to what Sadaputa wrote, is the 5th canto Bhagavatam. One of the features of the 5th canto Bhagavatam is depicting the earth planet as a stereographic projection in a 2-dimensional picture. I'm not going to go into it, because it's complicated. But if you wanted to see where you are, and you're out at sea and you're in a boat, and you know how to use one of these things, it's one of the things that you use, is this back piece you see in the diagram is called the mater. So the mater is the stereographic projection of the Earth planet on a flat 2-dimensional surface. And then there's the constellations of stars, and you look up and there's, you're passing through different constellations of stars. The ecliptic circle and the important stars are represented on another plate called the ret. There's the ret. See on the rim around the outside. So if you move some of these moving parts, then you can, you get latitude and longitude of where you are. I can't describe it so well because I've never used one, and I can't say I really understand it, but this is taken directly from Sadapunta's writings. If you wanted, in addition to the flat earth with the stereo graphic presentation of the earth in a two-dimensional plane, you could do the same thing with the other planets that are above. You could have another plate that shows where they are, based upon where the constellations are, based upon where the sun is. You can figure out where you are in the universe, or at least in our solar system. Now, why am I doing this? Besides, I'm fascinated by stuff like this. It's to indicate time moves according to the wheel of time, or Kala Chakra, because time is measured by the movements of the sun. The smallest unit is the sun crossing an atom, and then there's other units, minutes, hours, days, day and night, seasons. It's movements of the sun. Time is measured by movements of the sun in different cycles. And this cycle of the sun's movement is called Kala Chakra, the wheel of time. Now, all this is going to be depicted in the temple of Vedic Planetarium. Probably all of you have seen this drawing before. And the central dome, and the really big one in the middle, that's the Radha Madhava temple. And there's another entrance, another dome for Lord Nrsingadev and Prahlad. And then over on the other side, you can't see it so well, but there's another dome on the left side, and that's where the planetarium is going to be. And inside the planetarium is going to be a depiction of Kala Chakra. Now yesterday evening, I showed this little video. I'm going to show it again, because my experience is I've had to watch it like a bunch of times to pick up on things. So if you saw it yesterday evening, no problem, because I'm sure you didn't catch everything. I'm going to show it again, but one of the things it shows is you see if you remove those three front images, you look at the one that's behind them, you'll see a circular brown ring. That circular brown ring has a wheel mounted on the ring. The ring is the Manasotra mountain, and the wheel is the wheel of time, and the wheel of time is moving on an axle through its middle of the wheel, and the other end of the axle is on top of this golden mountain, Mount Sumeru. And mounted on the axle is the sun. The sun is moving on the wheel of time. I'm pausing purposely so that sink in. And the wheel of time is likened to a potter's wheel. You ever made pottery on a potter's wheel? So the potter's wheel moves very quickly. You have to move, have to do some things to make it move quickly, but it moves quickly. But supposing on the potter's wheel there were some ants. So the ants would move very quickly with the motion of the potter's wheel. But supposing the ants were moving also on their legs in the opposite direction of the potter's wheel. So you could say they're moving clockwise, quickly, and they're also moving counterclockwise, slowly. Like that, the sun is moving. The sun is moving quickly on Kala Chakra, once every 24 hours, a complete cycle, 360 degrees, day and night. And also, the sun is moving in a counterclockwise direction, very slowly, once every 360 days. So as the sun is moving slowly every 360 days, one complete cycle, the sun passes through zodiac signs. And thus we have the seasons, like yesterday. There's more to be said, but you can read Sadhuputa's books to get the more to be said. It's very interesting. I'm going to show you now a little video. This was made, that the voice that you hear is the in-charge person. His name is Antar Dweep Prabhu. He's Australian. You can hear his Australian accent. And he is describing what the planetarium is going to look like in a little video. So I'll tell you ahead of time some of the things you're going to see, so you'll pick up on it. At the very, very bottom of the universe, there's Anantashesh. One young boy asked me, how come I didn't say anything about Lord Shiva with the process of annihilation? And when annihilation comes, Ananta has flames that come from his mouth at the time of annihilation. And then Lord Shiva dances and the flames go up. And then the whole universe gets burned to ashes. Well, at the end of each day of Brahma, a good portion, about 2/3 of the universe gets burned to ashes. But the upper planetary systems, it's hot, but they don't burn to ashes. And during that night of Brahma, the universe gets floods. All the ashes dissolve in the water. And then the water subsides to its normal position. And Brahma wakes up in the morning, starts doing his sadhana, and he rebuilds that lower portion of the universe every morning for his whole life, 100 years. And then at the end of that's at the end of each day, and at the end of his life, the whole thing is kaput. But where the flames come from is at the bottom, from the mouths of Ananta. So you're going to see there's Anantashesh at the bottom of the universe, and you're going to then see what goes up above. Those discs, the golden kind of discs, that's indicating the 7 lower planets, the subterranean heavenly planets. You'll hear him say that. And then above those 7, there's 7 upper. The middle of the 7 upper is this place, or Bhu Mandala. You know what Bhu means, right? Bhu means earth, right? Bhu means earth. So Bhu Mandala is this earthly plane. It's that projection, stereographic projection of the earth planet that's round, depicted on a flat surface. That's Bhumandala. And there's varshas, or regions. You'll hear him say these terms. Varshas, or region. And the earth planet itself is one of those varshas, situated in the central island. And then in the middle of the central island is a golden mountain. Who's seen a golden mountain? No such thing. Not only a golden mountain, but it's wider at the top and narrow at the bottom. Who's seen such a thing? What to speak of the height of Sumeru? No, we've never seen such a thing. But it exists. And then it speaks of there's residential quarters for Brahma in the center, and then the phrase that you'll hear him say is Digpala. Dikpala. Pala means protection, and Dikpalas are the protections of the various directions. So they're giving protection to the universe, and they have their place where they stay. Then it goes up and up and up and up and up. So this is a depiction of the planetarium, and you'll see, look carefully, you'll see Kala Chakra moving, the wheel of time, and the sun mounted on Kala Chakra moving. He uses clockwise and anti-clockwise. I say counterclockwise. Same. So the sun is moving. Sun is moving like the potter's wheel moves very quickly in a direction. As the potter's wheel moves quickly, the Kala Chakra moves quickly, but the sun and the moon are moving counterclockwise or anti-clockwise slowly. That makes 1 year. Okay, here we go. I hope technology cooperates.
So at the bottom of the planetary display, we have Shesha holding up the earth. This is Shesh, the empowered incarnation. There we have Ananta speaking Bhagavatam to the four Kumaras, and above, the 7 subterranean planets. Here we can see Jambudvip, the central island of Bhumandala, and Bharatvarsha is situated on the southern side of that. It's 8 other Varshas, with Ilavrita Varsha in the center, various supporting mountains with large trees upon them, described in Srimad Bhagavatam. In the very center of Ilavrita Varsha is Mount Meru, Golden Mountain. Atop Mount Meru are the cities of important demigods, Lord Brahma in the center, the 8 Dikpalas in the cardinal directions and sub-directions. Moving out, we can see the broader Bhumandala, 7 concentric islands and oceans surrounding them. The 7th of these islands is Pushkaradweep. On that island is Manasotra mountain. On the mountain there's various cities of demigods such as Indra. Out further is Loka Loka mountain. These large elephants stand atop Loka Loka mountain to balance Bhumandala. Outside of Loka Loka mountain is Aloka Varsha, which is dark. The rays of the sun and the other luminaries extend up to Loka Loka mountain. On Manasotra mountain here on Pushkaradweep, the sun travels above this mountain at the southernmost point of its annual orbit. Above Bhumandala is Bhuvarloka, which is the residence of the Charanas, Siddhas, Yakshas, Gandharvas, and above there is Swargaloka, beginning from the sun and extending up to the pole star Dhruvaloka.
There's Kala Chakra.
This is the moving part of the planetary display. Here we can see the sun and the moon moving in their chariots. The chariots are being drawn by horses moving in the anti-clockwise direction, but they're traveling with the wheel of time moving in the clockwise direction faster. So it looks as if they're moving backwards. Above them are the zodiac of stars, more planets, and another realm of stars. So here we can see everything moving with the Kala Chakra, circumambulating the axis that connects Mount Meru with Dhruvaloka. Above these planets, we come to the planet of the 7 sages, Saptarshi. You can see them here, they're commonly known as the Big Dipper, and then the Dhruvaloka, the pole star. On the ocean of milk situated there, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, who is the Paramatma within everyone's heart. He resides on Anantashesh. Moving up beyond there, we have Mahaloka, Jalaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka. In this video, we haven't included many of the details for there, but on Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, we have residences of the Lord, such as Lord Varaha, Lord Vamana, and so on. Here's Brahmaloka, and on Brahmaloka, we also have a form of the Lord Garbhodakshaya Vishnu as the Sahasrashesha Purush. Beyond there is the 7 coverings of the universe, earth, water, fire, etc. And outside of the universes is the abode of Lord Shiva, Shivaloka. There he resides eternally. Beyond Shivaloka, we come to Mahavishnu, Karanodakashaya Vishnu, with innumerable universes that have emanated from the pores of his transcendental body. Here you can see him being served by Rama Devi. Then we come to the Brahmajyoti, the effulgence of the Lord's transcendental body. Penetrating through the Brahmajyoti, we come to the Vaikuntha planets. We're showing 24 planets of the Vaikuntha realm in this model. The Lord, with 4 arms, is holding the conch, disc, club, and lotus, and the various combinations of those 4 make 24. Then we come to Goloka Vrindavan. Here we can see Radha Madhava. And we'll also be showing the other primary rasas. Krishna with the cowhide boys, Krishna being served, Krishna with Mother Yashoda. So this is an overview of the planetary display to be shown in the main dome of the temple.
A little mind-boggling, but it's in the Bhagavatam, and it's the reason for showing you this is it highlights Kala Chakra, all these things and the movements of time within all these realms. Time is relative depending upon the realm in which one lives, but the time movement is based upon the movement of the sun. Kala Chakra. So that's the 5th topic of the Bhagavad Gita. Did any of you receive a Back to Godhead magazine subscription? It'd be good. It's a good thing. No? Who are you pointing to? Does anyone have a Back to Godhead subscription? Okay. Okay. One of the articles in this next Back to Godhead issue is from Canto 3, Chapter 11, about time, where in Canto 3, Chapter 11, it describes the movement of the sun crossing an atom, and then so many atoms and different units of time, and it goes to the whole creation. It's very interesting. And a devotee wrote an article for Back to Godhead. It's being published in this next issue. Atomic clocks and time dilation, in case you like science. That's the graphic for that article, and they probably, at some point in time, if I don't know when, they'll have it available online. If you're interested, you can read it. I know the author of that article. So now comes, was it the subtitle from the very beginning, Real Problems of Life. Bhagavad Gita is meant to help us address real problems of life. Real problems of life, there's the 2, birth and death, and then there's what goes in between birth and death. Old age and disease. So there's problems like, how we have a human form of life, how are we supposed to live it? Do you have an answer to that one? How are we supposed to live it? Bhagavad Gita gives us the answer. There's questions that if you start asking that question, you'll get a lot more questions. The same when you look in that mylar mirror. Who are you really? Who am I? What is the standard of true happiness? I'm being asked to speak at a couple of universities while visiting Texas, and that's the topic. What is real happiness? That's a good topic for college kids, for anybody. What is my personal purpose in life? Am I living the life of others' expectations? Younger generation people ask this one all the time. How do I solve the real problems of life? So those are, Bhagavad Gita answers those questions, or has answers, and one can apply them. I didn't do it yet. I was busy this morning. I'll be passing this document to Sajasar, and you see those blue things? Those are where the answers to what's at the top, the heading, like anger, confusion, etc. It's hyperlinked to Vedabase, so when you get this, it's a PDF. You just click on whatever you want to click on. It'll take you to Vedabase, where Bhagavad Gita answers these questions. It's very practical. Finding solutions to your problems in Bhagavad Gita. Practical, very practical. And that's our last slide. This is Srila Prabhupada in his mudra of giving transcendental teachings to all of us, which he made amply available in all of his literature. All of his literature. Just this morning, hearing Prabhupada in a recorded lecture, of course, saying, how many verses are there in all the Vedas? And you start listing the numbers of the verses that Vyasadeva compiled and the verses that Jiva Goswami compiled and Rupa Goswami compiled, and so many, many, many verses. Even if you read 10 verses every day, and whether you understood them or not, it would take you a whole lifetime to read all this. There's ample to absorb us in transcendence. With transcendence, it teaches us how to deal with the temporary in such a way it enhances your reaching transcendence. That's our human form of life. That's the purpose. To make that connection again that's been disconnected with Krishna, with the Supreme, with the source of our existence. And that's our real happiness. So I was asked to speak something on Bhagavad Gita. I thought this would be nice. Something on Bhagavad Gita. Let's see if there's some discussion. It probably went beyond the time that's normally allowed, but here we are.
Hare Krishna, it's a beautiful, beautiful topic. And again, I enjoy so much your explanation. Thank you for that. So I have a question. Atom. We know nowadays scientists keep dividing whatever the smallest part they found so far, and they find more and more, right? Anytime they break the smallest part found as yesterday, they found something in it. How atom, the explanation, it defined in Bhagavad Gita or Vedas?
How is an atom defined?
What is the smallest part? How?
If I get permission from the person that wrote this article, I can send you a copy of their article. I'm sure they define it, but most likely also you have Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 11, likely to define it there. So I'm not just, taking the easy way out. It's, it's defined as the smallest unit. Now, the unit can have subunits, but the smallest unit of matter is an atom. It's a simple definition. And there's some parts to make that smallest unit, just like a house. It's, somebody has an apartment, they call it a unit. It's got a bathroom, it's got a kitchen, it's got a, but it's a unit in an apartment. So that's that's very simple. My understanding of very simple definitions, the smallest unit of matter. And then there's subdivisions of that smallest unit.
So following this logic, which is pretty straightforward, the scientists haven't found physical confirmation of the smallest, since
yes,
they keep going through the process.
Who has seen who has seen time? Who has seen a mind? We know there's a mind that exists. Who's seen an electron? Electronics it's an industry. Electrical engineering, but who's...
Nobody sees electron.
No, who's seen an electron? No one. Who's seen an atom? No one. They know that they exist.
Well, they see the particles.
Well, they haven't seen the atom. There's no electronic device whereby you can see even an atomic, whatever we call it, supermost magnification. You can't see an atom. You can't see an atom. They know what's inside it because you know what something is by symptoms. And this is not that, and therefore it's different than this because it's that. So the photon and neutron and, etc. They give it nice names. They get a Nobel Prize. But, you know, seeing your question started with what's the definition, and have they seen one? As I'm adding to that, they haven't seen one, but they know of it by symptoms. Like, you know, electricity. We know what the symptoms are, or anything. But it has symptoms or characteristics.
Thank you.
Like characteristics of the soul. Who's seen the soul? Because they haven't seen the soul, then it doesn't exist. But that's silly. Yeah, there are lots of things we accept they exist, we can't see them. Others? Anyone else want to contribute to this?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please forgive my ignorance. Just a confusion and want to, yeah. So this video was about one single universe, and there are multiple universes. And so in this video, according to this video, Golok Vrindavan is situated right above, right? So how do I understand like multiple universes, Golok Vrindavan? Where are all these multiple universes? Are these in the same dimension or
No.
And so Golok Vrindavan is on the top, and yeah, how to understand that?
Okay. Thank you for that nice question. Have you seen the cover of first canto Srimad Bhagavatam? So picture that in your mind. There's this big blue thing. That's the spiritual sky. And in that vastness of the spiritual sky, there's so many globes, that's Vaikuntha planets, presided over by a form of Narayan, depending upon the position of the hands. And then up there in the middle upper portion, that's Goloka, that's in the shape of a lotus. And that's all of that's in this vastness of the spiritual sky. And look down at the bottom and you'll see a cloud. That cloud is in the spiritual sky. Right now we're in the spiritual sky, but we don't detect the spiritual sky because we're seeing the cloud. Like not exactly even the cloud is Mahatattva. It's okay. It's okay. The cloud is the sum total of the material energy. Mahatattva. And then Mahavishnu, in the vastness of the spiritual sky, reclines within that Mahatattva. So that's what you see. You look closely at the diagram, and there he is, reclining. In Yoga Nidra, mystic slumber. He's not asleep, but he's not doing things. Like, so that's where he is, and that's where from his body come, this is the Bhagavatam now, and Brahma Samhita. From his body, as he exhales, from the pore holes of his transcendental body come little golden seeds. Seeds. And the seeds then have something cling to them. The word that's used in Brahma Samhita is conglomerate. This means the elements cling to the seed, and then the seed with the elements start to grow into universes. There's the seed of the universe, and there's the elements that make up the universe, and they grow. So your question is, where's Mahavishnu in this picture? He's in the spiritual sky like we are, but he's in the Mahatattva portion of the spiritual sky. And he has a function on behalf of Krishna and Goloka, and that is to manifest, and then sustain, and then withdraw. That's his inhalation. And then after some time, he exhales again, and there goes a whole bunch of universes, the seeds of the universes that can congeal or conglomerate or have elements cling to them, and universes expand. Then he enters into each universe, etc., etc. So that's where Mahavishnu is and where we are in relation to Krishna in the spiritual world. So this video was depicting from this universe, the universe has a covering. There's 7 coverings. And what's on the other side of the coverings? The other side of the coverings is called the river Viraja. You've heard that term before? It's the dividing place between the material and spiritual realm. It's the causal ocean. Another name is the causal ocean. And Mahavishnu is reclining in that causal ocean. And on the other side, the other shore of the ocean is the Brahmajyoti. But actually, the Viraja is within the Brahmajyoti. Everything is within that vastness of the Brahmajyoti. It's a lovely picture. It takes a while because the model is a little different than what we're used to, but it's okay. Hear it again and hear it again and hear it again, and it starts to get, oh, that's what it is. Look at all those people out there. Anybody out there have something you want to contribute? Okay. Anyone in the room? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yeah, that clockwise and counterclockwise, when I read Bhagavatam, I didn't understand quite well. And you are explaining now, I'm just trying to understand. So Kala Chakra is rotating so fast and the sun is moving slow. Then because the Kala Chakra making the round fast, it is appearing like sun is
It's day
rotating.
and night. The fast is day and night.
Mm.
And the slow is the days of the year and the seasons during the year. That's the slow. But it's the movement of the sun creating seasons. And a year, the solar year.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah, got it. The
That's the
question, the question is like, sun is also moving clockwise only, but it
The
is
sun is
appearing
moving.
like,
The sun is moving with Kala Chakra, which is moving clockwise. So it's moving clockwise with Kala Chakra.
yes.
Yeah.
But the sun is moving slow than the Kala Chakra.
It's moving in the opposite direction than Kala Chakra. Then the potter's wheel. Pick the ants. It's real easy.
Okay.
You know, make a video. There's some little guys. Doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop. And they're walking really slowly against the movement of the Kala Chakra. That's okay. The ants can do that. And slowly, slowly, slowly. Every day they move 1 degree in the 360. It's really slow. But you know, in 1 year they do 360.
Okay. Okay.
But meanwhile, the wheel is spinning fast.
Got it. Yeah. Sounds
So day and night in seasons. Or, you know, a solar year.
Yeah. Sounds good, Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Interesting.
Maharaj, that out-of-body experience you said, how did the soul see? Because there is no eyes or hear the dialogues.
There's no gross senses, but there's subtle senses. So let me put it as a question. Is there a difference between subtle senses and gross senses? Yes. You know, in the Eightfold Yoga system, number 6 is pratyahara. You know what pratyahara means? You withdraw, it's what Bhishma Dev did. When Makar Sankranti came, he withdrew his senses. Pratyahara. His arms didn't go inside his body. His eyes didn't go inside his head. His hands, you know. The subtle senses were withdrawn. So the out-of-body experience is the subtle senses are perceiving. And there's a memory. Where does that subtle sense perception goes? It goes to the mind. And there's a memory in the mind. So when he came back to the body, he could tell the doctor, this is what I saw, this is what I heard, this is what was going on. But your question was, by what senses was he perceiving? The subtle senses.
Got it. Thank you, Maharaj.
Anybody else? We're done. Oh, yeah. One.
Prabhu, Prabhu Maharaj. I was watching videos of Srila Prabhupada lately, and Prabhu said you are his guru. So you are like Prabhu Saraswati Thakur for us, and thank you for sending Satyasar Prabhu to Austin, because I remember him saying that when you asked him to go, so he had different places in mind, and you are the one who said, who asked him to go to Austin. So thanks a lot for sending him to Austin. And he's our Srila Prabhupada. But you're asking a question to I just wanted to thank him. So you are.
And if I send you somewhere, are you going to go?
I feel I'm not ready yet,
I'm
but
not ready
yeah,
yet.
definitely.
And I don't think I would send you anywhere either.
Thanks for sending.
Thank you. He was ready. It's like a mango that's ripe on the tree. It's no problem. You have something further? Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai. A quick thank you note, a very short thank you note because of the time constraint. I would like to request Keith Prabhu to give a small thank you note.
What's this? Just, oh, okay.
So as always, Maharaj, thank you for your association and your masterful teaching, and obviously the beautiful way that you broke down all of the subjects of the Bhagavad Gita, just the 5 subjects, and kind of digging into them. I think the one that stands out to me personally is us actually understanding that we're not this body, and understanding that we need to actually dig in and really kind of go beyond our understanding of what we're dealing with when it comes to our spiritual growth. And it's always a beautiful way that you explain everything for us. So I'm always appreciative of that, and I think that's probably the biggest and most important thing for us. So I definitely appreciate it. So thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you for your thanks.
I don't think I can top the previous thank you, but thank you.
I got it. Thank you. It's your heart more than your words. That's the nice part. Okay. Yeah, we'll skip this.